The rapture is upon us. Whether you are ready or not.
Yo.
Hayi bandla. Imkhuba nje yenu ngizwa kuthiwa nithi
The rapture is upon us. Whether you are ready or not.
Yo.
Today, what people will hear is God revealing his plan
To his people.
to the people of the world.
Yeah.
God took me to see the future and then he brought me back.
Bring you back.
And then in heaven, in a throne room, I see Jesus sitting on his throne. And I could hear him very loud and clear. I am coming soon. And to the people who are listening, please pay attention to what I'm going to say. He says to me, on the 23rd and the 24th, 2025, I will come to take my church.
There's a date.
There is a date.
Are there other people who have also said the same thing to confirm what you have said?
babhemi anisasho indaba engaka lethule nje kanti indaba engaka ngizwe impela kuthiwa ngizocima ogesi ucima ilanga kube mnyama sanibonani ngiyanibona lapho kuma-chats Themba abantu bayaphila uzocima kube mnyama kanti nithule nje liyabhubha kusasa anisake ngihlebeli ukuthi hey uyabhubha kusasa umhlaba ya hayi wena kunzima hayi kunzima kakhulu angisho ukuthi ngithini kodwa ke njengoba libhubha ke kusasa bafethu ngithi angixwayise nje ukuthi iziphi izinto engingazenza to survive ubhujiswa lokho kwenzakalayo kusasa oqala nje fanele nikwenze ilo kade ngikusho izulu so kumele ibhuda mayibuya inifice niqonde nithe otherwise madoda yeah no jokes aside angihlangene kakhulu neendaba zama-rapture but at the same time there's a level at which ngihlangene naso but angihlangene kakhulu kuzokwenzeka ngesikhathi sakhona mase kuthi ifakenzeke kodwa engifuna ukuthi nik-understand ukuthi leya nto leya abasuke bekhuluma bethi i-rapture is not something that is going to be like a physical phenomena that you can call yabo but it is a spiritual phenomena esiphezu kwayo vele already which means there will be an unveiling of sort yabona nje benilele nje kanje nihonqa manje inkunga ngathi yasabuluka kancane. That is rapturing. This is why they call it the apocalypse, which means the revelation. As we say ukuthi there's a lot of realizing that is happening emhlabeni njengamanje. People are realizing ukuthi engathi khona basiphethe ngescam la. So ningabi too concerned about uqhuma nokusakazeka nokuba mnyama. Because even if it was happening, ngoba kusho ukuthi kufanele ukuthi kwenzeke. It's not something that you can prepare for. It's not something you prepare for. Even if you tried, they say that if the sun can go off for, they say 7 hours or so, instantly you will find everything will freeze. That's just how serious it will be, because the Kuzan and the heat we receive from the sun is something that is absolutely necessary to sustain this whole system. But yeah, so when they crash the numbers, they come up with something like that. I don't know if it's 7 days or so, but there's a period of time that you will have before everything freezes completely. Where you because that's how cold everything is going to be. Ice age. But it can't be an ice age when everyone is frozen to death. Go to again. Yeah, the rapture us. Anyway, I say again, there was a rapture. What I wanted to discuss here, if ngikhumbula ngaxoxa nandaba bhemu ukuthi ake ngibukise leya conundrum of the three who were crucified. Ngibukise leya conundrum of the king who was stabbed with a golden spear. Ngithe ngisakhuluma kanjalo, I think a couple of days ago, there was a continuation of another dream that I had. If you remember, there was a dream I talked about where I was following this man in Europe, and the timeline was around 1300s, 1200s there. So I'm following him. He goes into what seemed like a pub, and then he goes behind the door behind the pub, and then he enters from this pub. And then when he opens the door at the back, we end up in another street. It seems like hidden behind this pub was another entire complex of a street or a back alley kind of thing. So we go down this alley, a couple of doors, and then we take a left and we enter into another room. When we enter into this room, we then turn and enter into another one where we find this white man sitting around the table, and kukhanyiswe isibani that was illuminating that house. So bekhandlela nje like not even a candle as such, but it was more like an oil lamp that was set at the center of the room, on top of this table, and the focal point was this table. Masondela, because it's like I'm following him, but he doesn't realize that I'm there. And masingena nalaba they don't pick up when there's someone else in the room. So we focus on this sisondele phezulu kwetafula, and then I see ukuthi they have laid out a map, And le map yabo, they are discussing ukuthi how and where to enter the continent lesibiza nge-Africa. This was long before they even started to go on voyages. Is what I picked up. No, these people are planning on where to go and how to. And if you remember, I always say to you, Laba did not come here just because they were exploring the world. They were not exploring the world or anything. They knew exactly what they were going and what they were going to look for there. It's a thing that a very serious group of people knew. It's not. I'm not saying that all the Europeans knew, but there's a group that knew. And from where I'm sitting, I'm looking at it from all the way back to Igroup Gamelize. Umelize and his Knights of the Round Table. And then later on, you end up with the Knights of the Temple, who then turn into the Brotherhood of the Pirates, the Brotherhood of the Seas, the robbers. If you go to some of the historical things regarding pirates, you discover that they considered themselves as a brotherhood, and they all knew each other, and they had particular rings that they would recognize. Oh, this is a Captain Spanban. So from the temple to the seas. And if you compare the timeline, you discover the whole thing, a piracy, and then the advent of the invasion of Africa tend to be closely like that. So, which also makes sense because you find that the Knights of the Temple become extremely wealthy, even more wealthy than the church, which then triggers Pope Clement, I think Pope Clement III or the second, to order their execution. So he rounded them up and they burnt them alive because they were too rich, and the church was afraid of their influence. But what then comes out to Guti, in fact, most of those Templars, the nice Templars, found a way to escape and ended up being in the harbors and the ships, and that's how you end up with the Skull and Bones Brotherhood, Yama Pirates. That's where the whole thing of the Skull and Bones comes from, and then you end up with a conspiracy theory nowadays of how that is linked to the Freemasons and how they are running all the governments in the world. Everyone who's part of that Skull and Bones thing tends to be a president. It's not really a conspiracy, but let's say it's a conspiracy for now. Okay, so having you told you the story of the Round Table and the Knights of the Table and the Knights of the Temple, no Melis. So iyaqhubeka ke lento ke this week. Now ngiyaphuma from this room with this man, ngiyamlandela again. He's going out. Masiphuma, I'm realizing that we are in Amsterdam. Go back to the timeline. We're in Amsterdam, okay? What are we doing? This is Amsterdam, okay? Sihambe. And then I started noticing the dikes. The Dutch were busy doing the thing of trying to terraform the coastline. And the whole thing of dikes, them being very famous. The Dutch tamed the ocean. You can go look that up. Bit about Amsterdam. So I'm following them. We go through some of the dikes. You can see some of the plots of land where they are building these dikes. Okay. And we go up a hill. This is where now he is supposed to meet someone. And we wait there. Eventually, this woman comes. A white lady comes to him, and they go together like that. I'm following here behind. Just hovering behind them. Just observing everything. Which for what seemed like a while. Until we come to a very huge dike that has been built around a ship that is, that ship where a ship has had like a very rough voyage but survived. So it had survived, but it was the majority of its hull was damaged at the top. There was no this thing. I forget the terminology of my ships, but where the sails are connected, it was missing. But this thing, you can see it was beaten by the ocean so harshly, but it was still watertight and shipwright. So they are going towards this ship, and they are discussing something. Now, my focus, I'm zoomed into the ship. I'm trying to realize something, but then at the same time, I'm also listening to their conversation. Mame kuluma. Guy's conversation. No, they are talking about the people that they took out of this ship and things that they obtained from them. And what struck my mind was how the first Mansa who disappeared. If you remember, I've said this before, Uti. I wonder if that second Mansa who went to look for his predecessor, the first Mansa of Mali, remember Mansa Musa, the richest man, the richest king. So the second Mansa Musa, the one who's famous, went on a voyage, and his whole thing was he was looking for this the first Mansa, who was an older brother or a father to him. I don't remember exactly, but he was a relative. So he went to look for him, and he ended up somewhere in Europe and ended up in the Middle East as a broke, going around giving everybody gold. They say what they don't tell you is that along the Silk Route there was a lot of robbers who were robbing along the Silk Route. So if you went through that area and your security was not that ideal, they probably would have robbed you. They also don't. I wonder if that whole thing is not linked to the robbing hoods as well. But I don't want to dive too much into that one. I'm just saying the second Mansa becomes famous because he was looking for the first Mansa. So I'm saying to you, go try and do some background check on the first Mansa Musa, who disappeared and was never found. And the timeline actually matches because that man also disappeared around 1200, 1300s there. And then you find around that timeline, there is a story of Sinterklaas and the blackface person who's Zwarte-Piet. It makes a debut in Europe. That story that says someone went somewhere and came back with riches and a strange person who went around giving people European children gifts, but this person did not necessarily look like everybody, so they make it a point to display his caricature. But if you've been on this channel for a long time, you know we've been going through this thing as well a bit. And my investigation as I keep downloading this thing, Uguti, that king of Mali is definitely that person who got kidnapped there. And I'm shown here how he ended up in what you call this, Amsterdam. And then remember, Uti, from that point on, Amsterdam now emerges as a business hub where commerce literally gets invented, and the stock market is invented, and international trade is invented in Amsterdam. They literally start stepping out into the greater world after that whole event. So my view is, seems like these people could not make it out of the Mediterranean or Caspian Sea or Banban. They couldn't go out into the rest of the world to conquer. It's either their ship making was not up to scratch, their navigation was not up to scratch, all those things. They had no concept of what the world looked like. And then in this ship, Yellow Mansa, they found whatever they needed to kickstart this thing of theirs. Now, I hope that this scene will continue, because my other suspicion is that this Mansa king is probably the same king that I see being stabbed by a golden spear, wearing a golden robe. Because my depictions that I see of Mansa Musa II, he's wearing a golden robe and a golden crown as well. So it may have been a tradition of that particular kingship to wear robes made out of gold. And I guess it would make sense for people who are pirates, to, when they discover a ship that has people who are wearing golden robes and who have these supplies in their ship and gold bars, like, oh, it would make sense for them to try and get exactly where these people came from, and then go there to find all these things, which eventually did happen. So that's what I wanted to talk about, and that's how far this story goes. So I'm saying these things, I'm telling the story because I know some of you probably have seen this, have seen part of this puzzle, and I'm making it a point, Muti. If you've seen part of this puzzle, then tell me the section, because I think Sizoabaning in this one, and piece it together and get a full picture of what exactly happened while we are working backwards, because we need to work backwards and discover ukuthi laba bathathu abafakwa esiphambanweni, what exactly happened to them, which family did they belong to that was so powerful that making a blood sacrifice out of them gave the power to conquer the world. I kid you not. You need to look at that thing from a perspective, then it will make sense. Now, here's another thing that I was discussing with a brother of mine yesterday. Look at these things that this man was given in the cross. When the man was saying that he is thirsty, they gave him a sponge of vinegar and gall. Uvinika nenyongo. Taking note of that. Inyongo. Like, okay. The white people try to claim that maybe it was a local and it's sort of anesthetic. There's nothing anesthetizing about vinegar and gall. There's no such a thing. So they gave him vinegar and gall, which they say he refused. And then soon after that, they gave him a sour wine. And we talk about wines. This is a man who was tortured for more than how many days? 2 or 3 days. Tortured, beaten, humiliated in the streets. Because all of it is part of a ritualistic thing. And then they gave him wine. This man is said to have also gone and said, he literally performed a marriage there, where he's said to have said to his supposed mother, whom he had never really. I don't remember any passage where he owns his mother as his mother. He says woman, which is a very strange thing as well. He never said my mom. Even when they came to see him, there's a passage where they came to see him with his brothers. He says, "Who's my mother? Who are my brothers?" So he says there from the cross after taking the wine, son, behold your mother, mother, behold your son. And the son being John. So, yeah. And the mother being Umir. Now, it's a very interesting thing. Uguti, this ritual seems like a marriage of sort, or even a bestowment of some kind. Why did they need this man to perform this rite? What was he legitimizing there at that moment? Why was it necessary for there to be a wine involved there? Because if we are talking, if you're part of this house, we always say, if there's wine, there's a Dionysus cult. But here is a thing that you probably did not pick up as I was talking about this particular scene, is that thina bantu, when we go and perform weddings, what do? Sithela abantu ngenyongo. Inyongo is, we take inyongo as a thing that is extremely vital when it comes to our rituals. Makawalahleka inyongo khaya niyadungelwa amakhanda. And the thing about it, they don't tell you inyongo of what animal. I need you to really analyze that scene because it's an extremely powerful ritual that was done there. It's extremely powerful ritual that was done. I'm saying it because it links back to what happened to the Mansa and this sheep that I'm seeing, and these people that were missing in the sheep, and because I wonder what had happened to them, because I didn't see that part. But what I do know is almost most of your kings are buried under cities and churches in Europe. Strangely enough, they hated black people so much that they were genociding them, but they gave great care to take their kings and bury them under their castles and under their streets. Why? What was this thing that was so important that they would take Ozihlandlo and go bury them there. Shak. Hinza. Many kings, even kings from Benin, the people from Benin were asking for the bones of their people. Just I saw in an article, I think last week. So across Africa, they take all these rulers and go and bury them there in the streets of Europe. What was the reason? Twala. Wake uthwalwa kanzima. Qhutshekwa leliya thwalo lela elaqalwa lapha nakule ntabeni leyana. Nalo leliya thwalo liyenzeka because of another thwalo if you go back. Something about that story of Cain and the burning bush that is double speak there. I'm hoping someday they will show me what exactly happened there. But this is a very long story of how they twilight with us to rule the world, to make this umbuso wabo happen on this planet. And all of it links and works and functions because abantu abamnyama go and endorse and reaffirm ithwalo every Sunday and Saturdays. Senihamba masabatha manje. Blood cults. I don't want to even go into detail about the whole ritual about drinking that guy's blood. And the thing about it, what you must know is that it was not just him at that particular moment. There are a lot of other people who were getting persecuted and put on crosses by Romans at the time. But what one must ask is, what was so interesting about this particular three? Why this particular three? Why is it so important to specify these three and talk about that story? And I said again some other time ago, examine also the Marys that are there. I count about 5 Marys around that whole scene. How is it no Mary about 5 in that whole vicinity at the foot of the cross? Oh, 5 for Mary. A very strange thing to happen. Yeah, but yeah, sizothini. Because some of these things is deep and it bothers me, especially because it seems like they're hell bent to show me exactly what happened there, and I don't like going back to that place. I don't like seeing that scene because it tells me that we are in more trouble than I thought. It's really bad, It's really bad. Yeah, so that's pretty much episode 2. Probably episode 2 of that scene of the people sitting on the round table, planning to come to Africa, discovering a ship of Africans, kidnapping them, and burying them under the streets in Europe. And it's interesting that Mansa the second did go to try and look for Mansa the first. He didn't find a trace of him. He just vanished. How does a fleet of, was it 30 ships or 34 ships? How does a fleet of 34 ships just vanish without a trace? But here we are. Vanished, gone. And you know, it's interesting. It's really interesting. These people are going to be able to hide most of this information because abantu abamnyama are not in spaces of doing anthropology and archaeology and research. We are not interested in those things. Nor do we have systems in place to sponsor and pay for those things. It has to come from people because I mean, when you go back and look at who was doing digging archaeological sites in Egypt, you find that most people who went there, someone literally paid for that expedition. One rich person, two rich people, one rich family, go to Egypt, go find this, go find that. They'll dig up the mummies there, go and take them to Europe and grind them into powder and consume them to gain. They say it will give them superpowers. But the thing about it is we know is that most of these powerful families are either imgevu or cannibalists. Yeah. They are either cannibals or imgevu. And that's the other thing, Uti. I was wondering, Uti, what is this thing with the chosen ones, Lava Keto Lab? What is this thing of theirs? And Nobugevu, because it seems to me, land of consuming the blood is something that they pretty much practice. If you think I'm kidding, go and try and just look up any images of Ketwa East. What's the word I'm looking for? Circumcision. Look at what the rappers do to our infants who were circumcised. That's just a glimpse. But it seems to me that particular group of people and the drinking of the blood of people, pretty much. Yeah. So perhaps lento yemgevu, because I mean obviously imgevu corn and they're roaming around. These ones could tell us laba say 6-pointed star. Uma mhlawumbe singababhonya nje kahle bengalikhipha iqiniso ngale mgevu, and you know the way they are so sadistic, you can tell no, okay, they do have that quality of vampirism, even the way they operate. Yep. But yes, so that's where I am. Angikho kakhulu lezinto zama rapture. The rapture will happen, but not the way engicabanga ngayo. It's more going to be a realization. Kuzothi la emakhanda kube khona i-switch ephakanyiswayo. If singathi siyomlanda, just responding to a message here on the chat, phakathi, if singathiwa siyomlanda, do you think they would admit ukuthi ukhona? Do you think they would show us where they buried him? Do you think they would allow us to dig him out of there? Because I think they know ipower yabo ukuthi ilaliphi. They are not stupid. They know very well where their power is. So are they going to... It's a thing of, are you saying that they are going to go back to being cave dwellers? Because if we go back into the space where we reclaim our place under the sun, they have to go back and reclaim their place under the sun. And I think baziqhinya kakhulu with how far they have come, and they enjoy that. I don't think they would allow it, even if they didn't say anything. I think the people who actually don't know what's going on, and the people who don't know what's going on, are outnumbered by. I think the ratio is quite huge. There's a very small group of the elites who are part of this cabal of the Druids and the Round Table, the Knights of the Table. There's a very, very small group. People who know some very serious arcane things. And the thing about it is, appreciate the fact that Abelung have not stopped witchcraft since. They still practice witchcraft. They even went through the whole thing of Spanish Inquisition, where the church was literally going around killing anyone they suspected of witchcraft, but they're still doing it. The covens of witches are all over. They're still practicing magic. It's a thing. The church couldn't kill it as much as it was claiming to be, But then again, one could say, Uti, maybe the church was targeting a particular group of people that they didn't want. Because even the church itself is a magician's club. So knowing all of this, do you think that they would let us take that person? Kuyimanje bengafuni nekhanda likayinza. Bengafuni nalamakhosi aseBenin, afuna abantu baseBenin. What about the other ones that abantu bangazi nokuthi adwetshwe Europe? Because even these people you call laba bayibiza ngamaZulu, iLembe is nowhere. They don't know where iLembe was buried or what happened to him. They don't know. Even at the house that claims to be the royal house, if you go to them, say, okay, show us where iLembe is, they would never tell you. They have no idea. No. And the thing about it is, whoever that person was, is over there in Europe somewhere. Anyway. Not that I'm legitimizing their whole thing, but I'm just telling you, ukuthi maningi amakhosi la kwathathwa izicubu zawo emzimba yawo kwahanjwa osetshenzwa le Europe, kwakhandwa umbuso womhlaba. Banqoqobele nje abelungu ngoba kwasetshenzwa amakhosi enu. Iwona ancindezelayo. And it's not going to help you because nihamba niyokhonza emzini engekho nithi bayede khona. It's not going to evoke ukuthi kulungisekele yanto. And they made it such ngoba bafuna kona vele ukuthi ningabuyeli leli yagazi niyokhothama ngoba lingasuke lisukumelilwe. Yebo. So amandla lawo abawamunca kubaba mkhulu ngezicubu zabo yiwo la wanqoqobele, ningawazi ngisho ucabanga nje. Because anikwazi ngisho ukubona izinto ezi-obvious. I laugh all the time because most of the things that I tell you, you should be able to pick up. I just don't get how you're not able to just pick up some of these things, but these things are in front of us. How do you not realize ukuthi hayike ithwalo mzikele? How? It's just like it's right in your face. No, man. There, ithwalo mzi. Anyway, no, angiphume again. ya angiphume kini phakathi amandla athathiwe emhlabeni nasezulwini phakathi phela ubukhosi akufani nalento sesiyibona laphandle manje laphandle namakhosana enlawa enawaphiwa amabhunu namangisi akusiwa amakhosi lawa abukho ubukhosi obulaba abantu ngoba yabona ubukhosi eyibujule kakhulu bujule kakhulu ubathiwa ngempela bayiwo ngaba bafune nokubona because the amount of work we need to do to undo izinto ezenziwa kwisizwe hayi bafethu hayi it's too much. It's too much. Like, I don't like to look at certain things because the moment I look at it, it stresses me out because how do you even start? Qala ngaphi? But they just keep coming to show you no. Lawyer, kwenza ukuthi. Lawyer, kwenza ukuthi. This household, nakya. Law, washona lapha. Law. Bona uthi, hey madoda. How do I even start with this thing? How do I even have a conversation with people about this? Because hey, should phela lana ukuthi umuntu useyagula ngekhanda. Uthi usabheke lokho nangempela something happens. Confirms ukuthi oh, these people are not playing. We're serious ngempela. You know. So if you are dealing with amakhosi ngempela bene authority emhlabeni phezulu kwabantu, it makes sense ukuthi babezobasebenzisa and kwasebenzeka ngempela. Yebo. Saboshwe isizwe sonke, saboshwa ngemaketango. Siboshwe ngegazi lamakhosi aso. Injalo lento futhi andidabuli, ngikwazi ukudabula and you know it's interesting because you look at it ukuthi how bayithathe lento bayimbatha kwaba yabakubona. So when you see them you look at them with this reverence le fanele ngabe ninika amakhosi. Yebo. Uhlangane nomuntu lapha phandle akuthathe nje otherwise but maqhamuka umlungu Nkosi yami naye unamansense hayibo hey bona umuntu hey usebona uyayiqoqa manje ubona uNkulunkulu yabona ukuthi kufa kunzima nje ngisho to even bow to your own kings because you have been captured by this thing would know lento isimthathu yafakwa lapha yana isekho la kukhulu ngisho ukuthi ke uthi bayede kukhuni can't even speak that out because into ibanjiwe must not recognize this one. Can't recognize this one. So siphazamisa. I know this one. Yeah. Some of you even think ukuthi you have an idea of what Nkosi is going to be about or what it looks like, but you don't know anything about ubukhosi. But you think you can recognize it. It's the strangest thing ever. The strangest thing. Sisetshenzwe ngalendlela ejulile. And unfortunately kuzothatha isikhathi ukuyilungisa lezinto. I mean, I always say to myself mangiyiduduza ukuthi no, it's not like they took 4 years, 5 years. They have been working hard for thousands of years to get where they are. So you're not going to solve a system developed over thousands of years over one day. Yeah. It's going to take a time and a lot of self-sacrifice to to open doors and cut amafindo and break ama-chains, it's going to take a lot of time. Anyway, angiphume kini nibe nobusuku obuhle, izobonana kusasa. I don't think ukuthi kuzoba mnyama kakhulu ngalendlela ngicabanga ngayo. Kodwa ngamuzwa ubhuti loyana bemcaphuna ethi naye uyobe live vele manje futhi ugesi uzoba ukhona ngamanye amazwi, because angiboni ukuthi uzoba live kanjani if ugesi ungasasebenzi. So izobonana kusasa. Thaba niphile nje, nikhumbule ukuthi nabantu, khumbulani ukuthi nabantu anifani nalaba abanye. Once you realize that and recognize yourself as a people in the nation, you are on your way.